Thank you. Mr. McDermott, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to tell you, listening to this hearing is like we're living in Alice in Wonderland. Here we are hearing from witnesses telling us how to use default creatively or use it to get some leverage or something, and the simple talking about it here is destructive. The whole world is watching this hearing. This is the first hearing on this issue. And the whole point of a society is to create and run a government in order to make order for people. People don't like chaos. And this hearing is about how to create chaos to get what you can't get politically with votes. The businesses and workers in my district think this kind of talk is crazy. Today we're talking about a crisis manufactured by the Republicans, a crisis they've manufactured to achieve policies that the voters wouldn't vote for at the ballot box. The Republicans are taking the economy hostage every single time they get a chance. Their threats hurt workers and businesses, investors, retirees. Job growth stops every time the Republicans have a crisis. The economy falters. This is a Republican governance and economic policy at work, or not working, really. The biggest problem with the Republican arguments that are before us, and we just heard it again, is that spending and debt are the problem, and this is a misdirection. Republican Congresses and Republican presidents were happy to run up huge deficits to wage wars they didn't pay for, or take tax cuts for individuals and industry, and give billions to oil companies. Now, deficits aren't what the Republicans care about. What Republicans want to do is end the guarantees on Medicare and Social Security. We just heard somebody say it's that entitlement payments that are the problem. I disagree. I think this country can have a social safety net that covers people and pay for it. And that ought to be happening. But what's happening on the other side of the aisle here is they want everybody who's lucky and doing well to just do well. And if you aren't doing well, you got to deal with it. It's your problem. It's social Darwinism. It's survival of the fittest put into public policy in this committee. That is the Republican policy. And I respect that they want a different policy than I do, but we ought to be honest about the debate. Instead, we just watch people say spending in the TV cameras again and again and again. Spending is just a term that the polls like. Republicans won't say what they want to cut because the public doesn't want their policies. But the word spending polls very well, so we hear a lot of it, but we don't hear debate because the Republicans want crisis but no solution. If we were serious about having a debate here, we would start talking about what in Medicare should be cut, or how are we going to change it, or how are we going to finance physicians. All those things would be on the table, but we don't hear that. What we say is, let's just cut. And when you start talking across the board, you're talking about medical research, and you're talking about NASA, and you're talking about NOAA, and you're talking about all these government agencies as though they don't do anything that add anything to the society. So when we're spending our time here talking about this deficit stuff and raising the deficit, the debt limit, we are simply saying to the world, for the first time, America is not going to pay its debts. Now, my question to you, Mr. Johnson, is this. If this was such a good idea, why haven't we done it before? We could have saved a lot of money by not paying our debts. Why have we suddenly decided that this is the time to do it? Give me some understanding so the American people can understand why, after all these years since the First World War, we paid our debts under Republicans and Democrats. I voted under George Bush, both of them, to raise the debt limit. But now, we're going to stop paying. Please tell me why they're doing that.
Well, Congressman, it's not a good idea, and it's not the way fiscal policy was run, not just since World War I, but go back to 1789, after the initial assumption of debt at the federal level and the restructuring of debt with which Alexander Hamilton began fiscal policy in this country. The policy has absolutely been to always pay your debts and your other obligations. And it took a long time to convince the world that the U.S. was the safest place to put your reserve assets or your rainy day money, and it was a great achievement, and now it is being squandered and thrown away for, I presume, some negotiating purpose. Makes no sense from a broader economic perspective.
Thank you. Time's expired. I would ask unanimous